And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fantaseries book club discussion for Realm of Ash, the second book in the Books of Ambha series. I almost said trilogy. It's not. It's only these two books. That's all we've got. So we are going to be discussing Realm of Ash tonight. It's probably going to be spoilery, so just be prepared for that. Our fourth member, Nicole, will be here soon. She's running a little bit late. We were running a little bit late too. We were posting the drawing for our next series, so make sure you check that out on Christine's Instagram. But yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. As always, we will go around and introduce ourselves, and we can start with like ratings and any general thoughts and feelings, just to kick things off. So, as this is my channel, Books Past Bedtime, my name is Jess. I liked Realm of Ash. I haven't actually officially rated it on Goodreads yet because I'm slacking on my reviews, but I think I'm gonna give it a 3-star. I just feel very ambivalent about it. Like, I definitely liked aspects of it. I enjoyed my time reading, but I did have some issues with it, and like I just didn't feel wowed by it. So yeah.
Well, I'm Rachel from Let Me in the Library, and I never have a higher rating than anybody else. And we're not going to start now. My rating for this book is a little bit closer to like a 2.5 for me. Kind of in the same boat as far as the feelings for this book. I didn't dislike it, but for me, a 2.5 is very much like this book was okay. Like Jess was saying, like it didn't particularly wow me, and we have a little bit of a discussion thing already going a little bit before the show, and I definitely agree with a lot of Jess's thoughts as far as like there was nothing that really I felt a little underwhelmed, I guess. Like I didn't really feel like a lot of the events near the end of the book made sense, I suppose. Like I feel like things were building up for a big like I don't know, like battle or like climactic moment, and we just didn't really get what I was expecting. And then a lot of like the big mystery types of things were pretty obvious. I think, such as I think like one of the main ones that we'll discuss pretty soon. So for me, a little bit closer to 2.5, but I am always excited to discuss the fantaseries because I think I usually I end up trending a little bit more positive after we discuss it because it's just fun to talk with everybody. But yeah, I'm excited to see what other people think.
Posted with seconds to spare. That's all I have to say.
Perfect timing.
Okay. So the new books are in the Discord, like Jess said, so you guys can totally go there and vote. We have some really strong contenders for this next group, so I'm excited. But let's talk about Realm of Ash. Okay, so I expected a lot of people to not like this book. Me, on the other hand, I gave it a 4 stars. And I liked it more than the first book. Like, how did you guys feel compared to like the first one?
Honestly, I feel pretty similarly about both. Like they're both just very like even keel for me. Like, I'm just like, yeah, they're just a big, very mid for me.
Yes. I think like in comparison to the first one, because I think the first one was like more of a 3.5 for me. Like it was like fine. Like it was a little bit better than fine because I was interested, but I felt like there was a lot lacking. Like the magic system being the first thing, and then also their relationship I thought was like kind of insta-lovey, of course, for obvious reasons and things like that. So in this one, I think because I was comparing it to the first one, that's why I liked it more, because in comparison to the first one, for me, their relationship, like they were around each other all the time. Like they were talking, they were friends, like they became like lovers eventually. And it was definitely like a slow burn thing. But that was there for me. And then also I really liked the politics, even though it was more of like a smaller scale than like what I would prefer for like a 5-star read. But I really liked kind of going deeper into the magic system and being able to like get in it with the characters, because we do actually get to see like the realm of Ash and kind of like more about how this like specific type of person can access the magic. And I liked the politics. Like I was like, okay, so we have a whole family. We actually get to go into the kingdom and we get to see how, because there are so many siblings, each sibling is like trying to vie for power, how those siblings use other people to like become powerful. And yeah, overall, I do agree though, like the ending was a little like what happened here? Why did we have the sister mention? We didn't really need that. And then I did end up saying, because I did a vlog on this for our Patreon, it's like the first 20% of this book was unnecessary. Like we did not need to be in the like widow's kind of like sanctuary at all. We should have just started like from that point. You know what I mean? Like her husband, and we're getting into spoilers. I know you just said that, but just in case, like we should have started from the part where like her husband had died and she is going to go to the castle, or not the castle. She's going to go to the kingdom to like work for, you know, whoever she's going to work for. Like she shouldn't even have went to the widow's place, because it's like really the significance of that in the grand scheme of the whole entire plot was like very insignificant in my part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think after I did, because I did the call pile method, and I think because my call pile skews higher for plot and characters, I did like the political plot and I did like the characters a lot more. So I think that like made my rating a little bit higher than like what in my heart I probably would have given it like a 3.5 again. And the other book a 3. But yeah, I think I like her writing and her writing style. But I think because these are like her first 2 books, she probably just needed, I don't know, some experience.
Quite hit her stride yet.
Yeah, like she hadn't quite. So I remember thinking like I would be interested to see her other stuff to see if it's any different than this like years later. Because I do think this is probably one of the most like original magic systems I've ever read. It's just kind of like she didn't really deep dive into it. Like we didn't really get our hands dirty with it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of questions from the other book were not solved in this book, even though it is a companion, which I get. But like, I don't know. I like things to be solved, you know?
Yeah. Well, especially because it is duology, you would think like certain things might be left a little bit open-ended, but generally most from the first book would be wrapped up. And instead, I kind of felt like this book tried to present new mysteries. The main one being like, oh, somewhere along the way, Meher died. Not gonna talk about it. And I was like, what? Like, what? And like very early, they were just like, yeah, I remember when my dad just was like, by the way, Meher's gone, implying that she died. Yup. And then like every once in a while she was like, I'm so sad she died. I'm so sad she died. And I was like, she's obviously not dead though. Like you can't have like the main character from the first book die off screen. Nobody talks about it. And then surprise, they come back in the last like 8% of the book.
Yeah. So that was definitely underdeveloped. I think that's probably like, if I had to think about this book in one word, it's like underdeveloped. Like, though the characters were better in this one to me than in the first one, they're not something that like I would compare to like my favorite characters of all time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not at all.
And like the plot did remind me a lot of Daevabad. And
well, I was gonna say I love Daevabad so much, and it is still like a Mina like system of magic, which I love a lot, and I learned about from reading Daevabad. And like I like to see that stuff again, but I had just really recently read The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, which is also an S.A. Chakraborty book and also a Mina culture thing. And that one also has like the Marid and some Daiva and stuff. And I think just like it's very different to see how different authors approach those creatures or like the lore, and then how the characters interact with that. And usually there's some like reverence towards this unknowable being. But I guess in this one, I felt like they were not like very, very loosely defined. Like it was very hard for me to picture like what is a Daiva in this book. Because like the first book, I kind of felt like I got it from the first scene or so, but this one it just sort of seemed like there are nightmares, also there's Daiva, also like there's a lot of other things going on with the realm of Ash, and then there's some good things to do, and other times we're going to just change our mind and say that that's not good anymore. And I was like,
Yes.
it's very unclear to me how any of this actually works. And I think it's that, like, you know, confusion with the magic system once again, that, you know, when they go into the realm of ash, they're like, if you eat the ash, that's really bad. Don't do it. And then instantly, the first time they go in there, then Zahir just eats some ash. And I'm like, you said not to do this. So, like, okay. And then he's like, it's fine. I'm fine. And I'm like, okay, so that's not a rule. Great. And then later on, they're like, don't let go of your roots. And then they just let go of the roots. And they're like, but we're fine. And I'm like, okay, so, like, all the rules you're establishing so far, I don't think matter, because you've broken all of your rules instantly, and I don't feel like there's any credibility with any of the things you're saying. So then by the end, when they're like, I don't think you should eat this ash because bad stuff would happen, and they're like, okay, I trust you. I'm like, whatever. Like, at this point, like, I don't have anything like that I'm holding on to as far as like how this has been established in the magic, in the way that this all works, that it was hard for me to then like take those plot beats seriously. And I guess I felt very differently that with Daevabad, I felt like every like political moment, every plot point, like maybe I didn't remember like every single moment, but I felt like I was really on the edge of my seat every time something was happening, because I understood the stakes and the gravity. And in this book, I just felt like I was sort of going along for the ride, but I wasn't, other than like some of the things with the political landscape of the whole family, and they were like, I'm going to rise to be emperor over other people. Like, I felt like I was engaged a lot for those, but a lot of the, well, what the book is titled, a lot of that Realm of Ash business, I suppose, felt so loose that it was very difficult to understand what was good, what was bad, because it kind of felt like they just kept breaking their own rules without much consequence. Or it would always end with her being like, I don't know who I am. And then like what felt like in the audiobook, like pages of him just being like, you're Arwa. You are Arwa. And I was like, okay. But like I feel like we've done the scene like 25 times at this point. I as a like reader don't feel engaged reading the same thing over and over and over again. And I felt kind of similarly when I finished Empire of Sand, was that a lot of it did feel like we were sort of just moving along with the story as a I don't know, like an abbreviated version of the events towards the end, because she kind of just wanted to like move along to the next point, but it didn't really feel as lived in, and maybe that's because I didn't feel as rooted in those events.
I think that's also like an important thing to kind of highlight whenever you're reading a fantasy book. Like, one of the most important things is having your rules and having like that set magic system that, like, you know, okay, if I do this thing, like XYZ will happen, or like people will die, or like whatever. And I think this kind of goes to the writing style too. Like, the writing style is very loosey goosey. Like, it's very like, not like super, like not like Addie LaRue flowery, but like kind of flowery, like a little bit of like beauty in the fluidity
I would say
of the
it's like very abstract. Like, there's not a lot of concrete concepts.
Right.
It's very like loosey goosey. That's how I would describe it, as abstract. And I've had so much trouble like making visual pictures in my head while I'm reading, because I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
yeah,
it's just all over the place.
That's what makes it kind of like non-enjoyable, because in fantasy it's almost like you have to have those like rules, or like you have to have a clear picture, because in fantasy anything can happen, you know what I mean? It's not like in real life where if you say like a chair is a chair, a chair is a chair. You know, like in a fantasy world it can be anything. It can be a magical chair that transports you wherever. So the point of that is having that kind of like loose fluidity is hard in a book like this, because unless you like that in your fantasy, which I don't think a lot of fantasy readers do, then ultimately you're just going to be like, there are no rules, nothing makes sense, and therefore, like Rachel said, like, I don't care, because nothing makes sense.
Yeah, it's almost like nothing quite matters, or the decisions the characters make are not something you can understand as a reader. Because I think if like by the end of this, when they're saying like, if I am to take on this role, I can decide what that means for me. And I'm like, well, sure, in like a like find yourself Brené Brown type of way, sure. You can call yourself whatever you want and say that that means whatever it means. But if you're talking literally in terms of this magic system, and you're like, I can be what I want to be, and therefore I will have this like result as like, you know, my definition of what that means for me as like, I think it was like the Maha's heir was this, then I will have this actual power as a result. I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I don't see where that comes from. This just kind of feels like a, like, I was, you know, used and I'm supposed to be in this position and now I will go do something else. And like using the same power in a different way would be just fine. But much of what this book was trying to do was kind of like a like empowerment kick, but with no like nothing behind the scenes to like actually make me believe that by changing that mentally, anything was resulting in a positive sense, I guess. So I guess whenever I see that stuff in fiction, it's very difficult for me to grasp onto it for the same reasons that you listed, Christine, where it just kind of feels like they're trying to make a point just for the sake of like
Making
empowerment or like, you know, whatever point they're trying to make, but I don't feel like it's made as effectively because it's just something to be thrown into the book without actually like the rest of the foundation having been built in advance for that to actually feel believable.
Yeah, the logic, it has to make sense logically.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then we don't believe it, right? And that's what makes it good or bad. So, not Bonbon.
Hello.
Hey. We're just talking about ratings and stuff, really.
Okay, what did you guys rate them?
I give it a 3.
Yeah.
I gave it a 2.5.
I gave it a 4, but I'm probably like more leaning into a 3.5, honestly.
Yeah,
did you get
I feel
a chance
like
to finish it, Nicole?
I did finish it. I'm so happy. But I would rate it probably between a 3.5 to a 4.
Oh wait, you rated it between a what?
3.5 and a 4. Like I had a really good time. I think that the first like 150 pages were kind of slow for me, but I was a fan of the romance and it was just a fun time. Like I don't know if it will stick with me in the long term, but it was a vibe.
I feel like you and I had similar experiences with it because like I knew it wasn't going to be anything like mind bending, and I'm probably not ever going to really recommend it to people, but like it was fine. Like it wasn't the worst thing I ever read, you know?
Yeah, it's fun.
Did you read it physically or on audio?
Audio.
I read it on audio too. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I started physically and I was like, I can't do this, so I've got to go audio. Yeah. That might have been like a big difference for me.
Yeah, the narrator was good.
Almost the thing by audio also, but I had to like stop every once in a while to actually read it physically and to just be like, what's going on? Like some of the stuff I'm a little bit lost with.
I did both.
I really like
I listened to the
audiobook narrator. Oh, what?
Yeah. I listened to the audio as I read it physically because I felt like if I was reading it physically, I just would put it down. But
yeah,
listening to the audio, I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I needed both.
Well, I think I had a good time with the audio too, because it's the same narrator for literally like any kind of like Mina inspired thing, like literally does all the Daevabad books. She's awesome. And so I was like, this sounds familiar. And I think that's also why I liked it, because I just like her as a narrator.
Yeah, that was good audiobook.
But yeah, definitely slow burn for sure.
Do you want me to, maybe I'll do like a quick summary just in case there's anyone in the chat that needs a refresher, hasn't read in a while, before we get too deep into
I think definitely, because we are doing like a different like
and then we'll also hit some comments also before we get into like
some of
the deeper stuff.
All right, quick summary. So as we mentioned before, this is the second book in the Books of Ambha series, the first one being Empire of Sand. Discussion is up on my channel if you missed that. But this time, instead of following Meher as the main character of the first book, we're following her little sister Arwa. So when we first start the book, Arwa has just been widowed and is 10 to 12 years after the Empire of Sand leaves off. And so Arwa's just been widowed and is on her way to the widow's hermitage to spend the rest of her life mourning her lost husband. It's hinted at that she's gone through some kind of tragedy where she lost her husband. And so she kind of thinks of her life as a lost cause, and she knows that she has Amaranthi blood and thinks thinks maybe this can help the Empire in some way. So she offers herself up to this other widow in the Hermitage, Gulshera, who has connections to the royal family, to help in any way she can. So Arwa and Gulshera go to the palace where the Emperor and his family live, and Arwa is tasked with helping this boy named Sahir, who is the bastard son of the Emperor, and he is trying to figure out how to gain the Maha's knowledge. As we know, the Maha died in the last book, and since then the Empire is kind of dissolved into chaos. So Arwa and Zahir travel into the realm of Ash, where it's kind of like, this is kind of where the magical system gets blurry, as we were discussing earlier. There's dead people in this realm of Ash. If you consume their ash in the realm, you get their powers. So they're trying to find the Maha so they can glean his knowledge to save the Empire. But the Emperor dies, and he names his heir, but the brother is not happy about the other brother getting the Emperor, becoming the new Emperor. So he murders him, and he has it out for Zahir, because Zahir was named as the Maha's heir. So the other brother kills the new Emperor and takes over, and Zahir and Arwa flee because he is hunting them. They take this like pilgrimage to Arena, where Arwa is originally from, because they think that they can better access the Maha's powers there. A lot of shit happens. The ending is really weird. They do find the Maha, but Arwa's like, don't eat his ash because you will become a bad person. And so he agrees, but then the Emperor immediately sweeps in, takes them both captive. Arwa does some weird shit in the realm of Ash and gains a bunch of power and becomes like a diva. I don't even know. I have no idea what happens, but she saves them. And then Meher, surprised, is not dead in the end and comes to nurse them back to health. So that's basically what happens in this book. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Thank you.
You nailed it. I feel like literally just you saying that and how like disjointed it was from the first one. You were like, yes, Mare is dead. We don't know when that happened. Like that was a strange like thing that never got solved. And then also like it's just like everything was so disjointed.
It was. And when they first originally said Mare was dead, I was like, did that happen in the first book and I just like forgot?
Missed it. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, did I just not interpret something correctly? Like, is she actually dead? I figured she couldn't have been dead, but then I was like, maybe I just forgot.
Exactly.
No. I mean, I was definitely surprised when we first, like when we had last left off with the last live show, and we were like, did you know the next book starts and it features her sister, but it's 10 to 12 years later? And we were all like, what? That's so wild. And it seemed like really bizarre, but then I felt like reading this, it didn't really feel like it, other than the fact that like Arwa was like 9 in the first book, there was kind of no reason for it to be 10 to 12 years later, at least as far as like the way the world looked, because it kind of seemed like things have fallen into disarray because the Maha died, but that could have been like a year later. Like,
yeah, and I thought Meher was like set out to try and fix that. Like, what has she been doing for 10 years?
Right.
Yeah, we were just kind of like, oh, I have a family. I've been traveling with this like thing, and I was like,
yeah, like she just became the Tara of the clan. Like, I thought she was going to save the world.
The first book, they were like, hey, we're the gods, and you can be like our like, you know, we will like help you to like harness the ability of like what power we have, and then like help to reshape the world. And she was just like, nah, I don't really want to do that. And then like 10 to 12 years pass, and then it's Arwa's story now. So I was like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then at the end, Arwa was like, didn't you look for me? And she's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so then where's the evidence though? Because if you've been traveling for like 10 to 12 years, and your sister then got like married and widowed, and then all this stuff has been happening, where have you been? Like, I don't know.
Mare had a whole family that she was like, and also I thought she wasn't supposed to leave the temple because she was doing her thing every day, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
She was supposed to be doing the ritual every day or
Who
whatever.
knows? Yeah.
So maybe she passed it off to somebody.
Well, that's what I was thinking too.
I don't know where that went.
Who knows?
Because I thought she said, like, I'll agree to, like, dance the rites. Like, I don't know if it was every single day, but it was like she agreed to do it. But she was just like, I just don't want to, like, do anything beyond that. And they were all like, okay. And then she, like, made out with whatever her guy's name was. And then the book ended. I forgot what his name was.
I will say, I loved Arwa and Zahir's little relationship that they had going on.
Me too.
I was living.
It was cute. It was cute.
It was very wholesome.
Yeah, I appreciated that they were, like, you know, that they kind of got to know each other under different circumstances. I did think it was weird partway in the middle when Zahir was like, I don't want to live in a world without you and I would, like, die to bring you back or whatever. And she was like, you don't feel that way for me? And he was like, yeah, I guess I don't. And I was like,
he got embarrassed.
No, wait, he did that because they were around the fear and it was, like, bringing out his, like, greatest fears. That's why that happened.
Well, then she was like, you don't feel that way for me. And he was like, you are right. I don't feel that way for you.
Well, I think he was, like, trying to, like, cover up because they hadn't even, like, held hands. I think he was trying to be like, I'm chill.
It's like they hung out for, like, a while, like, several weeks and months and everything. And then he was just like, I would die for you. What? I never said that. Never.
Y'all, my internet is acting crazy. So if I freeze, I'm sorry. I feel like it's happened 4 times since we've been on.
Oh, I think it's fine.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt. Also,
no, it's okay.
I'm like, what's happening with my internet right now? I'm sorry. Anyway, continue.
So I saw a 3-star in the chat. I saw a 3.5 in the chat.
Yeah, there's been some, I think most people feel mid about it.
Mid.
Comments
It was mid.
It was just very mid. A mid experience for everyone.
Yeah. It's just sad because I was, like, excited for this one, but I don't know why now. I'm like, huh?
Author spends a lot of time dragging out certain scenes, but overall, I liked the story. I would definitely agree with that. I think 100 pages could have safely been cut out of this book and it would have the same impact.
Definitely.
Which is really interesting. Because
if not a better impact.
What were you going to say, Nicole?
I was going to say, like, it's really interesting because there were a lot of scenes that were really dragged out. And I felt like just, like, the reader could have benefited from maybe that 100 pages being in the beginning, like a prologue or something. Because I don't know if you guys talked about this already, but when I started reading it, I was really confused because, I mean, it just kind of jumps into the world right away. And I didn't really know what was going on with Arwa.
Yeah. Like, why is she at the Hermitage? You know what I mean? That's why I was like, I feel like the Hermitage part could have been
like
out.
Yeah. Well, and more of the words could have been used. Yeah. And more of the words could have been used to, like, explain the world and
yes,
make it more concrete, because I think that was the problem, that it was just so abstract and flowery and the words that were there didn't mean anything. And so it was too long, 2 words that didn't add to the story.
Yeah, unfortunately. I feel like
this person agrees that the
different
beginning might not have been super necessary, and I think the siblings were kind of underdone.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the, like, writing was, like, nice to read as a, like, snippet, but it's a challenge to make the whole book like that, because especially because all of us basically read a lot of this by audio in some way, shape, or form. It's really hard to understand what's going on when it's like 90% flowery. And then kind of, I feel like Tasha Suri sort of realizes, like, oh, I'm being a little too flowery and not explaining what's happening. And then she just kind of, like, rushes past, like, months at a time. And it's like, okay, there's a scene where, like, Zahir and Arwa are, like, talking and they're deciding, like, we're going to do this whole thing with the Realm of Ash. And they go into it and they come out of it. There's this whole thing. She goes, like, several weeks pass and they keep doing this. All right, now we're here. And I'm like, what? Like, okay. But I just feel like this happens so... Like this one scene was like 4 chapters, and then all of a sudden it's months later, and it just kind of feels like the pacing of it is, I can't say it's slow or it's fast. It's kind of like a weird disjointed mixture of both at times. It was definitely very odd, and it was hard to kind of keep track of what was happening from both the perspective of, like, I think just in general, but especially by audio, to also understand what was happening, when it was happening, because of the flowery language, but also when it was happening in the first place. And that was very, very difficult to grasp, along with, I guess, a lot of the other complaints we've had about, like, the magic system and the other things that are also a bit difficult to wrap your mind around.
It was a fever dream, you know?
It was a bit of a fever dream.
Like, it was a fever dream. Jess did this really awesome thing, like, before we started the live. She, like, did this whole breakdown in a Google Doc of, like, everything that we should talk about. And, like, one thing I do want to talk about with the plot is, like, she pointed out that the plot's in 3 different parts. You've got, like, the widow's residence, the hermitage, right? The palace journey, and then the, like, journey / pilgrimage to Irina. And I think the strongest part of this book for me is the palace part. I don't know why. I just really vibed with that whole entire plot line. Like, I was vibing with them at the palace and, like, getting to know each other, and also the politics that happened there. And then I think, like, the beginning part in the hermitage, like I said, could be cut. Like, just cut that out. You know, we don't need that. And then the end, of course, was, like, kind of weak, right? But what did you guys think?
I feel like I agree, but it's not like I think the middle part was, like, the best, because I just don't feel.
I definitely think I liked the parts in the palace the best.
Yeah. I did like the scene at the end with the. I mean,
Sorry,
like, I didn't
was talking over
understand.
you.
Oh, I didn't understand, like, why she knew this, but I did like when she approached the. I guess it was, like, where all the widows were staying near the very end of the book, and then she was like, "Oh, but you have all these, like, extremely precious, you know, material and items and stuff that are inside," and, like, you know, the effigy or something of the Maha is, like, this thing made of, like, beautiful marble, and they were like, no, it's made of wood. And she was like, oh my god, the nightmare is in there, and that's why they're not, like, killing each other and stuff. And she went into there. I didn't understand why that was happening, like, why she saw marble when there wasn't or anything, but I thought it was an interesting take that there were all these women who were, like, trying to pray and show reverence to the Maha, but they were accidentally praying to the nightmare instead. And I was like, that's interesting. This feels like a diviner's type of, like, thing, and that's why I'm attracted to the story plot of it. But I just wish that there was more stuff with that rather than the other. Like, that was cool, but I also felt like it was just sort of, like, plopped into there along with a lot of the other. Oh no, Jess is gone.
Yeah, she said she was having trouble with her internet, so I'm sure she'll be back. But it's definitely the execution of that I think lacks here. And what, like we've said, it's underdeveloped, undercooked.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, just kind of having you mentioned the nightmare portion of it, right? And, like, how confusing that part of the magic system was. And I have to agree, like, that was one of the parts where I was like, I thought the devas were, like, the ones who would be more highlighted, I guess. And that it would be more of, like, like the Maha, right? Like a human sort of villain in this one. Because I was waiting for what's her name from the first book, his little minion. I was waiting for her to come back, right? And I was like, have your revenge plot, sweetie. Give the drama, because Christine is ready for the drama. But it ended up being, like, obviously the nightmares. And I did find that super interesting that, like, when they prayed to the nightmares would leave them alone. I was like, okay, plot, let's go. But I think in the end, it's like we said, it was just, like, the execution of that. It didn't go all the way we wanted it to. Like, I feel like there were so many good ideas with this entire, like, duology, but it just wasn't, like, executed, because there were rules in the first one. You know what I mean?
I also feel like every single
contract.
Yeah, and I feel like every single scenario like that was like, oh no, we're facing, like, a bad thing, was like they would just somehow, like, just be powerful enough to get out of it. And like I literally read this today, like, that scene. I don't remember how they got out of any of these scenarios other than, like, she just thought about like having more power, got more powerful, surprised everybody, and ran away. I was like, well, that's kind of how like it happened with the Emperor. It's how it happened with the Nightmare. I feel like that's kind of just how these scenarios have gone thus far, and it's not. I don't know. I think I'm just a plot girly. Like, I want something conclusive that happens at the end of these big climactic moments, and it just keeps not happening. It just really like diffuses the tension that's been built up, and I appreciate the building of the tension, but when it just kind of diffuses into almost nothing, it doesn't feel satisfying, and it just sort of feels like you've been taken for a ride, and you're not even sure how we got to the next scene yet, because
she definitely was dipping her toes in to the magic system, like quite literally, and then would break off. Jess, I know you're like, what is happening in the House of Commons?
I connected to my phone, so hopefully it'll support it better than my shitty Wi-Fi.
It seems better now.
Yeah,
you seem more clear.
We were doing so well for like 25 minutes.
So. I know, and then all of a sudden your Wi-Fi was like, too much. I'm out.
Like, I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, so the nightmares were crazy. But I do think the magic system compared to the first book was a little bit more developed, though not as developed as I would have obviously wanted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we still were like, what the hell's going on? But like, at least we knew that like the realm of ash, like when they said realm of ash, y'all, and they were like, yes, we're going to the realm of ash. I said, that's the name of the book. That's important.
I was like, that's the name of the book. And we're like 30% in. They said it.
Yes. I was like, yes. Okay. We're getting somewhere with the magic system. But like I said before, it just was not cooked. The idea wasn't cooked, y'all. I got a runny egg and I really wanted it fried, like, and that's where I'm at with that.
What an analogy.
It's a good visual. Like, it's a good visual.
This is the first visual about like Realm of Ash that I can see in my brain.
Not the fried egg, put the fried egg emoji in there. But yeah, honestly, so going back to like the portions of the book, like I said, the first portion, exit. If I'm the editor, we're Xing that. We are cutting it out. We don't need it. Second portion, loved the palace. Thought that was fun. Loved the politics. The journey, I couldn't tell y'all a single thing they did on the journey to Irina. I couldn't tell you. I think they stopped maybe at an oasis one time.
To be fair, I did like the back and forth between Arwa and Ashara, the bodyguard.
Okay, yes. She did she did say some rude stuff. She was like, Arwa, you're just
she was definitely pretty mean.
Yeah. She's like, you are a lady and you don't know anything. Tough egg
to crack, if you will. She came around in the end.
She did, because she was like, she even said, she was like, I don't approve of you and Zahir. Like, I know that you're using him and he's better than that and blah, blah, blah. I was like, are you in love with him?
Yeah. I was like,
because you can just say that.
Defending a man with their whole chest like that couldn't be mean.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the whole time I was like, I hope she's a lesbian. That's what I was wondering. I was like, are you a lesbian or?
Yeah.
Because you can tell us, like, this is a safe space. So anyway, the biggest plot twist was Gulshara.
Yeah.
Who was like the mentor in the Hermitage. And then, spoiler, obviously, ends up being the backstabber later.
Yeah, I mean,
that hurt me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
It did a little bit, but also throughout the whole thing, it was very clear that she was there for her own interests.
Yeah,
I felt like Gulshara was like a bitch the whole book. Like,
yeah,
she kept her at a distance for sure.
She definitely did.
Yeah, she was always kind of like, oh, I guess I can like help you and I care for you or whatever, but like for a price. Or something. Like, I never really felt like she cared about her, so I never was really that. Like, I was way more surprised by the plot twist in Empire of Sand when it was like the Maha's own, whatever her name was.
Oh, now that was a good one. The way that, I forgot about that.
Yeah, where that like happened in like one instance, and she just like pulled the knife across from it. I was like,
which like valid, you know what I mean? Because like if you're gonna kill my sister.
Yeah,
I will be killing you, you know, so it is what it is. But I do think that last portion, like, it just was anticlimactic and I still can't remember. I feel like the way that it ended was like he was like, you're always gonna be like who even knows what she is, a demon, a deva, I don't know. But he was like, you're always gonna be this way, and I am too, and we're gonna see ash in each other's eyes. And then like they rode off into the distance and we never saw them again. That's how the book ended in my brain.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's one other thing I guess that we didn't mention, which is that like Arwa was gonna die, and then Zahir was like, I'm gonna give up some of my life so that you live. And I was like, this is super sweet, but what are you talking about? How are you doing that? I was like, explain. How
I love that. I love that you're giving me your energy, but how are you doing that? That's the magic system we never got explained. I agree. I forgot that happened. And I like read this entirely like, you know, a few weeks ago. So
yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Wait, it's so sweet. Did y'all actually think Meher was dead the whole time?
No.
I didn't either. I didn't believe that for a second.
The only thing it made me question was how much I remembered the first book.
Yeah.
We're like,
I have a memory lapse.
It was textbook gaslighting Jess. And everybody else was like, yeah, no, it didn't happen.
I would have loved to have seen you read this. That would have been funny as hell. Jess is just like flipping the page, her like brow is furrowed.
Wait, when?
Like, huh?
But I mean, it's a testament to how forgettable the first book was, because I was like, did she die?
I mean, maybe she did, and we just didn't pick that up. You know what I mean? Like maybe like her doing that every day was actually her purgatory.
Yeah, everything was so abstract. I'm like, maybe
I would never know.
Maybe she was dead. Who knows?
I would never know. Yeah. Who did y'all like the best? Like, who was your favorite character? Did anybody have a favorite character? I mean, I think, Jess, you already said the bodyguard, right?
Yeah, I thought she was the most interesting character to me.
She was funny, and let me tell you, it needed some laughs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she was the only character I felt that wasn't as dry as Ash, if you will.
Oh, not a mouthful of ash in the realm of ash. Or if you don't have a favorite, who was your most hated character? There we go. Rachel, I know this question's for you. Hit it, girl.
Who was I had to pick one? Okay, wait. Let's see.
I feel like I don't have any strong emotions towards any of the characters in this book.
I did not like the princess.
Oh yeah. Jihan.
She would probably be my least.
Oh my god. I did not trust her the second I met her.
Yeah, the way that she turned so quick, I was like, whoa, girl, you are really...
Zahir, why do you even like care about her at all?
Yeah, and she lied about him very early in the book, and then like oh my god, not Meher. Arwa went to Zahir and was like, she just told me this, and he was like, yeah, she fucking lies all the time. Like, don't trust her. Like, she's and the rest of the book, they were just like, oh my god, we trust her so much, and like she's so great inside of the palace. And I was like, she's known to lie. Like everybody should know this by now. And then near the end, they were like, you can go and see your sister. And he's like, oh my god, I can't believe she's still alive. And I'm like, yeah, but like, you know what she's like. You know this is obviously going to be a trap. Like, this is a bad thing, obviously. And then the whole thing was just like, oh, I will like plead for you to have a death by poison, which will be much faster than what was his name Purvis?
Yeah.
Wants to do instead. And then he was just like, if you don't tell me what you know about the Maha, I'm gonna like gouge out your eyes and like pull off your like earlobes. Like everything was so like wildly gross. And I was like, you just became this like intense
crazy person,
like villain person for this like basically your brother, like stepbrother. And then the sister's just like, it sucks to suck that this is happening to you.
Yeah, it was like her little thing, her little character card was saying for the Empire, period. That's all she said. She said, I don't care about nobody, but it's for the Empire, period. I just realized we were talking about the nightmares and how confusing that was, but I actually remember the reason why they were around was because of the backlash from the Maha's magic, because the Maha had been taking all of the good things from the Deva and putting it into the Empire. And so then these like past 10 to 12 years, all these like nightmares, all the bad things that were supposed to be happening, that's why the nightmares kept showing up.
Yeah.
So that was the thing for that. I just forgot that had happened because I was like, what are you talking about? but now I realize that is why that would happen.
Rachel talking about the ending too reminded me of a part about this book I did kind of like, when Arwa comes in and is saving Zahir from the Emperor, pulling off his earlobes and whatnot. I really liked how she didn't like outright kill him and instead like said all this stuff to make his supporters doubt him. So it's almost like a slow, painful death that he was more deserving of than just like quick getting rid of him right there.
Yeah. I think that was probably one of the most exciting parts.
Yeah, honestly. I agree. Even though I didn't know what the hell was happening to Arwa's form, how she had gotten like that, I liked what she did.
She was a ghost for sure. Yeah. She was floating in the ether. I don't know.
Like halfway between both worlds.
Yes. Yeah. She was like kind of dead, kind of alive. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing about the book to me was about like the Maha's heir and like how like the legend just kind of spread and how Zahir just kind of went into this role and he had like followers and pilgrims, and that was very interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that part too. I was like, word travels fast in this kingdom, you know? When I'm
because they said that there were like always rumors about it, but they had never said Zahir's name. They just said like there is an heir to the Maha somewhere. And then eventually when the emperor was dying and everything, then they were like, okay, it's you. Like, you're the heir. You're the one. And then that's when everybody was like, you can't just tell him that he's like the heir. That's like terrible news. This is awful for us because of the, vying for power type of situation thing. But I thought it was interesting that they were just like, oh my God, it's him. And like everyone just immediately like flocked to him and followed him. But I liked what he said in that scene where he was kind of like, it would make sense for me to be the Maha's heir because I am like a bastard and I would come from bastard blood. And like, that's the only way that it would make sense for me to do this. So as you do this is only like more proof that I have something over you, that you're like, more so like embellishing these punishments to try to make things more, excruciating for this like punishment or this execution or something. But he's kind of like proving his own point.
Yo, Zahir was my favorite character. I'm gonna say it. Like, he starts out, when we first meet him, he seems like a weak little kid. Like, he just seems so weak. He's like hiding in the dark. He never comes out in the sunlight. I'm like, sir, you need to go get a tan, please. And so then he develops into exactly what you're talking about, this person who takes responsibility. And even though he doesn't want to be the Maha's heir, he's like, okay, what do I need to do to survive? 1, 2, save the empire. 3, be with my girl. You know what I mean? And I think like his character development, I liked that the most out of this book because he turns into, by the end, just like this completely different person than he was in the beginning. And I think a lot of that obviously has to do with like that middle portion where his dad is dying and like he ends up naming him the heir and all the drama that kind of like came with that, right? Because obviously he's like, oh, I'm gonna name, my oldest son to be the next emperor or like whatever. And then of course all the death happens and the killings and the murders and all that stuff. So I did like him the best. And I did think that his brother, the oldest one, who like kept being like, you're not my brother, you're a bastard. I was like, bro, y'all are literally, your dad was the hoe around here. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all are related. So just be like your sister. Yeah, he was so angry. And I was like, sir, no wonder you got killed off. You never would have survived. Yeah. You never would have survived. But yeah.
I do agree, though. I liked Zahir's development. He was definitely like a soft boy from beginning to end.
He was a soft boy.
I did really like how he kind of like accepted the responsibility of if someone has to be the Maha and everyone's pointing at me, I guess I will do it to the best of my ability. And the fact that he was very like humble about it and like resistant to corruption and like that kind of thing. Like I thought he would be a good person in power because he doesn't want it. Like he was that kind of character.
Yeah. And I think that's low-key like how a lot of good fantasy characters are. Like not necessarily the chosen one, because I think it is kind of chosen-y. But like you know, it's those ones who accept that they have to do this even though they don't want to. It's like the hobbits in Lord of the Rings, right? They like want to always go back to the Shire. They don't want to be the ones going over and throwing the ring in the in the lava. Like they don't want to do that. They just want to go back to the Shire and live their lives. And I feel like that's how Zahir was. He was like, bro, I don't want to be the Mahas heir. This seems like a lot of responsibility. Pilgrims following me. This is weird. And he even says that too, because his bodyguard is like, let's get them to pay for the hotel, or like, let's.
Cher's like, I want to sleep in a bed. Get them money.
Right. And he's like, no, we can't do that, you know. And I think that I really liked that about him. I was like, all right, he's a tortured boy, but like he's got some spunk.
It was also really funny every time that anybody like met him, they were like, are you sure he can fight? He looks weak. He's so pretty, but he looks weak. Like, come on. And I was like,
and then he popped off.
Yeah.
I was proud of him. I said, okay, swing, bad guy, swing. So I thought he's probably my favorite part, honestly.
He was fun. Yeah.
He was.
I felt like he was a nice, like, even though I liked the romance in the first one, there's like that very questionable scene that we talked about in the first live show of the like the Maha has control, and so he's like, you have to go and like bed your wife like now, basically. And then Meher is just like, I've decided like I want this, so now it's okay. But it was still like a very weird, you know, thing to have happen. That's like, you know, a very much forced marriage of convenience. Then, well, marriage of convenience that was becoming like a romance thing was just very quickly turned into this like, is this assault, or this is like just kind of going along with it so that it's not assault anymore. So it's very like hard to get past that and just be like, this is a perfect romance because of that scene. Right. Even though I really liked you know, the romance initially, other than that, in the first book. But I feel like this one was very much just like two people who kind of like saw each other as equals. Like at all times they were always like, you know, treating each other with like reverence and respect, but also like kind of poking fun at each other. Like I think Meher got like shot with an arrow near the end, and then Zahir's like, you were shot with an arrow, it's in your shoulder. And she's like, I didn't know. Like, you're so fucking dumb. Like, come on. Like, and like they're able to still like jab at each other, but just have like a genuine friendship that grows into more of a relationship. And then they both are kind of like, I feel so strongly for this person, I would die for them. Like, I would literally do anything for them.
Yeah, like it made sense in this one.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it works too because like they're the only ones who see each other as equals. Like everyone else treats them like crap and like they're less than.
Yeah.
Like they're
tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they just have such a good partnership. Like each one's the first person that's really like treated them like a human.
Yeah.
So
I also appreciated the difference between in the first book where, you know, both characters are like held to do rites for the Maha. And it could have been a very similar scenario, but this one's somewhat the opposite. So it's not the Maha. They're at the Emperor's palace, but also they're really doing something that's more like in secret, in private. No one's making them go into the realm of Ash, but they're seeking answers. I thought that was like an interesting balance to strike between books 1 and 2, to say, you know, you're both here in these positions with some type of royal force over everything. And there's still like some, you know, oppressive nature of that, more so in the first book, I think, when they were really basically held against their will. But in this one, they're both still somewhat seen as like, you know, people working here, they're here for a reason, and they aren't really seen quite as equals by anybody else as people because of their history and the way that people will then treat like Arwa for being a widow and then saying like, you can't, you know, do certain things or be alone with somebody. But her still like saying, I'm still hiding this part of me with my Amrithi blood. And also Zahir is, you know, being the bastard son, like put into this other category from the other sons as well. But both of them kind of like finding their own home with each other, as well as like not just being like, I'm just attracted to this person, but also like we're both seeking knowledge that's going to help save basically the world from everything. that has been happening for the last 10 to 12 years. But it still is hard to like just deal with the whole like 10 to 12 years have passed, and then the person who seems to have been capable of stopping this just has been chilling with her family for like a decade.
Yeah. It definitely seemed like it felt to me more like it was like 5 years instead of 10, but like I understand why it had to be 10 because obviously Arwa was so young in the first one. But I think that could have been easily corrected if she just wasn't so young in the first one.
In the
Like,
first-
like instead of being an 8-year-old, she could have been like a 14-year-old, which is still young enough to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, then say like 5 years
Yeah.
had passed. Maybe she married when she was like 18, and then the husband died some number of months or a year in or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I feel like what they were trying to do and what we were talking about in the first discussion was when I forgot her name, but the stepmother, was raising Arwa because she was so young that she was basically able to instill different ideas about Amriti blood and just say like, you have to hide this about yourself and like, this is not something to be proud of. It's something you should basically like just totally ignore. And then raise her in the ways of being an Amban woman so that she didn't have any of like the qualities of her own culture of Amriti like culture at all anymore, because also Meher was gone, which was her only influence, and of course the mother also was gone. So that was supposed to like completely shape her into being this other person. And I know that was referenced in this book, but I also don't think it was such a significant portion of like who she is as a person that it couldn't have also been like formed into that first book if this was like an idea that Tasha Suri already had in advance when she was writing the first book. Like I kind of feel like it's a companion novel to it. I definitely think the first book is more enjoyable for like the overall plot of everything that kind of happens in the end. But there were certain decisions that I think were made in this book just as a consequence of not having all of it baked out by the time that she was like working on book one. So
that's a good question, I think, for everybody. Like, of the two books, which do you enjoy more? Because that's what you're saying, right? Like, you like the first one more than this one.
I think I like the first one more, but I also got through this one faster, so I don't know what that means.
You didn't care. You were just like, I'm turning the page. Goodbye.
The audiobook is going at a lower speed on this one, and yet I'm somehow getting through it faster. I don't know.
Yeah, after the live for the last book, like I hadn't finished it in the live, or I had like gotten close or something. But I went back and like read it slower than trying to rush through. I do think I ultimately liked the first one a little bit better. Like if you were making me choose between them, I mean feel pretty similarly about both, but I did kind of like the first one a little bit better, I think, just because I thought the plot progressed a little bit better.
I did. I think the weakest part is the characters in the first one.
I think I liked Mayor and whatever his name was a little bit better than Arwa and Zahir, honestly.
I can tell you.
But I'm also a sucker for an arranged marriage trope, so I like that. But,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I also really love the stuff in the first book that was about like making your vow to somebody and how like they were sort of using the vow that they had made that the Maha believed was going to control Meher as almost like a way to like hide something. And I'm a sucker for like the types of tropes that are like, we're hiding something together against this person. And we just have to like at all costs, like it is a secret, nobody knows, just the two of us. And especially when that's something like a binding of a contract of marriage, I'm like, ooh, that's pretty interesting. And especially because of the way that it works culturally with like having the marriage seal like around your neck and like just being tied to this person was a much bigger aspect of that first book. And then in this one, as Arwa is a widow, you kind of would see that means that she's like bound to this one person. So she's supposed to spend the rest of her life grieving for him. But we also barely hear anything about her husband until the end when she's like, we were not a good match. I'm sorry that we got married. But also I wish I was like a better wife to you, but also like we were never really great together and I love somebody else. So I don't know, like I think there was so much about being a widow in the first like 100-ish pages or something of that, but it was so much just like something that was slapped onto her as a title, and a little bit less of like the actual impact that her being with her husband had on her, because so much of it was really just about Dara's Peak, I think it was called, and like the events that had happened there, and then she was like, please just let me grieve, and she wasn't talking about it, and I figured that that was kind of like seeding for something later, but I didn't feel like I don't know, I guess maybe like she was given the title of widow, and everyone just kept reminding you as the reader that she was a widow over and over and over again, but I felt like we almost never heard about her husband at all. So it kind of just like a strange thing to just throw in there. And then they said, like, you can't, make another contract with somebody else because you've already done that. You've made your marriage seal with somebody, and now you can't do it again. And she's like, well, I'm going to just do it anyway. And like, that's what I want to do. And I felt like that would have been a much more impactful moment if we had seen like a little bit more of that side of things. So apparently I've had more to complain about in this book, so I have to say the first one I liked better, but I don't know. I feel similar with Jess, where I'm like, technically, if you had to make me choose, I guess I would say I like the first one more, but I also feel like I was more I was more able to finish this like quickly than I was with the first book, but both of them are still kind of like tough to get through because of the writing style and the flowery stuff we've already talked about.
What about you, Nicole?
I think I like the second book better. I think part of it is that I liked the love interest better. Why am I blanking on it? I literally just
here and Arwa.
Yeah, I think I liked their romance a lot. He has that kind of like, nerdy, quiet, pragmatic kind of vibe, and I like that. So
we love a focused king. You know what I mean? Like, we love someone who can really focus on goals and gets there, under pain of death.
So even though we all kind of felt like meh about this series, will we read anything else from Tasha Suri, do we think?
I said this to you guys earlier, but like, I would be interested to pick up Jasmine Throne and just see.
I actually purchased it. It's got
I have the Jasmine Throne, and my hold for it, the audio just came in.
Oh, wow.
So are y'all doing that, or?
I'm planning to read it soon, actually, because I'm going to do a queer SFF reading vlog again. So.
Oh my gosh! Thank God.
I'm making my YouTube comeback in June.
Oh my God! My birthday month.
I love that for you.
Amazing.
That's great. I love it when you do those kind of things. Also, I feel like it's really hard to find sci-fi fantasy that has good sapphic rep.
I agree. I'm going to read that one, and I'm also going to read. There's a sci-fi that I got off Book of the Month. That's
Space Between Worlds.
Yeah, I think I'm going to read that one too.
That one's good. There's not like any real romance in it, but like, I love that book. So
close enough.
Yeah, I was like, it's still really good, and I highly recommend. I think you're gonna love that book, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Sweet.
But yeah, off topic. But yeah, I would probably try Jasmine Throne, even though I've heard like so many people hate it. I feel like that would be a good fantasy pick, honestly. But you guys will have to report back and let us know.
I was gonna say, is it a finished series?
No, I don't think so.
A trilogy now?
I want to say it's a trilogy, yeah.
Because I know there's like the Oleander's Sword.
The green one.
And then I don't know if there was a third one. I haven't been keeping up with.
I don't think the third one's come out yet. Let's see. Okay. I'll check Goodreads.
Yeah.
Tasha Suri, what you doing, girly?
Oh, my Wi-Fi just cut out again.
Oh no.
It's okay.
No comeback for you.
Yeah, it says Untitled, The Burning Kingdoms, number 3 is 2024. So I just love the covers of these ones. They're just so good.
They're super pretty.
I have both of the Books of Ambha and the Jasmine Throne, and they're all freaking different height. It makes me so mad.
Oh no. Do you have the
They picked
hardcovers?
No, I have the paperbacks. Like, not even Realm of Ash and Empire of Sand are the same height.
Are they Orbit? Are they all Orbit?
Yeah, they're all Orbit. And the
This is
Jasmine
Orbit.
Throne is like double as tall as Realm of Ash. When I first got it, I was like, what are the
No
large
way.
feet? Like, what the hell is this?
It has to be
Mine's
the page
same
count.
size.
It has to be the page count because
Oh,
obviously, like, this is not as big as Jasmine Throne. You know what I mean? So they probably were like, "Whoa, we can't have a thick."
Let me get mine. Just so I
All
have
right. Well, me and Nicole will hang out over here. See y'all later.
Okay.
Y'all are so funny.
That was so fast.
Y'all are killing me.
It's so short. It's so much shorter. And Realm of Ash is even shorter.
What?
What?
Mine match. Mine
I'm
are
holding
fine.
them flat. I swear.
This is
I'm
so
also
rude.
holding them flat.
This is why we all need to go to the UK. I'm
This is
done.
horrifying.
I'm
Horrifying.
done. Jasmine Throne though looks so good.
That's so funny.
This book is so big. I could use this as a weapon.
Mhm. I'm so proud of you, dude. Like, wow.
Yeah, I have the hardback of Jasmine Throne.
Not the hardback.
You can really use that as a weapon.
Yeah.
You really need to read that book.
This one?
Yeah. Look
Yeah.
at it. It's so pretty.
It's so pretty, and I've had it for so long because Casey and I were supposed to buddy read this like a year ago, and I just kept
she read
not
it, huh?
being ready to read it. And then I think she read it without me and gave it like 2 stars, and I was like, cool.
I'll be
Can't wait.
interested.
I don't always have the same taste as Casey though, so
You know
Hit or
what?
miss, I think.
Wait, what'd you say?
I don't always have the same taste as Casey, so I'm not really worried about that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, be interested to see.
Yeah, so I think as far as underrated or overrated of this book, like I feel like it's the exact rated that it should be. You know what I mean? Like no one really
Yeah.
talks about it. It's like pretty much a mid time,
Mm-hmm.
so it makes sense.
Yep.
It makes sense in my brain.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Unfortunately, I wish I could love the series more because I know that there are a lot of friends who really, really love these, and I think it's also dependent on like what you're going into it looking for. Like
Right.
compared to a lot of the things that we've read for the book club, we read like the Poppy War, we read Jade City, we've read the Diviners and things like that. And I think a lot of those have like these very grand, overarching plots with really complex characters. Each of them having their own storyline and each of them having an extreme amount of depth to them. And even if we have like our complaints here and there, they're overall very, very well written books. And there's a lot fewer complaints that we have during the live show about like, I couldn't tell what was going on sort of situations, or I didn't understand the magic or stuff like that. I think that much of that was better defined in a lot of the series that we've read so far. I don't know. I'm sad to say that I don't love these as much as our other picks, but yeah, these are.
Look,
I think,
we're not always gonna have winners, okay?
Yeah, I think these are more
Yeah.
like fantasy romance fun ones that are still like fun if that's what you're looking for in particular. But I guess for me,
describe it as fantasy romance.
I would agree with that. I mean,
fantasy
I would-
romance, yeah. Like I think it's
Yeah.
less of like the
It's
plot stuff
it's
I
a
was looking
romance with a fantasy subplot, which is very
Yeah.
different from fantasy romance.
Okay. Romance with a fantasy subplot. I can vibe with that. I have no
Okay.
strong feelings either way. So I'm not the person to ask which one it is.
Honestly, it was giving We Hunt the Flame. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like the first one that we
Okay,
read,
yeah, that definitely would be the series. I
because
would
it's like lyrical and like very just like up in the
Yeah.
air. And plus,
Yeah,
like
kind of
sometimes I was
trash.
like, why are y'all even here? Like, you know what I
And
mean?
also like a non-Western magic system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like non-Western magic system. Like I think that, and I felt the
Also, you
same
said
way
duology.
about
Yeah,
also
the first
duology, but I
minute, I
felt the
forgot
same way
about
about the
it
characters
in
kind
my
of.
life.
Yeah. I think the biggest difference is just that like these are supposed to be companions instead of like one right after the other. Whereas We Hunt the Flame, I don't even know if I could tell you what happened in We Hunt the Flame other than I liked the brother who reminded me of the brother from Daevabad. Anyway,
Everything goes back to David.
I was like, I can't.
I don't remember a single thing about that.
His brother was like the funny guy.
I do remember a funny brother.
Remember? Also, wasn't he gay too? I just remember him being really great. Like he was like one of my favorite characters from We Hunt the Flame. Anyway,
Maybe.
neither here nor there.
I just remember there was like the Huntress, and then like the Prince of Edginess.
Don't even take me back there, please, Rachel. Please. I can't go back to We Hunt the Flame. I gotta go. I can't stay here for this.
Signing off.
Yeah, I'm immediately no.
Immediately
no. Yeah. Anywho.
Right. Anyone have any final thoughts? Do we want to announce?
Yeah, let's announce the picks for the next
options
one. And then does
who's
anybody have
gonna be on?
a want, like whatever they want to win?
Okay, so the picks for our next vote, there we go, are The Raven Boys by Maggie Seafodder? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, which like I'll give that another try, you know. I could be interested in that if we talk about it together. The Broken Earth trilogy, which is actually going to be Rachel's pick for the poll, and it's going to be on Rachel's channel. So that's her contribution. And then The Ninth Reign, which is the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams, which, you know, that one's wetting my whistle as well. So honestly, I'd be okay with any of these.
I don't know that one, The Ninth Flame.
Yeah,
it's The Ninth Reign is the name of it.
Oh, Ninth Reign.
But the picture, if you like go, I posted it on our story. Like I'll show you really quick.
Oh yeah,
I've seen the cover.
It looks like
this. Yes, you've seen the cover.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm just interested, because this one always comes up in the poll, and I'm always like, what is this series? But yeah, so those are the options. They're in Discord now, so you can vote. And right now, like as I'm looking at the poll, I think the two that are in the lead are the Broken Earth trilogy and Darker Shade of Magic, and Darker Shade is winning by 1 point. 1 point, 1 vote. So yeah.
Oh wow, a lot of people have already voted.
Yeah.
I need to look up what the Broken Earth trilogy and the Ninth Reign are about.
Yeah, I just know the Broken Earth trilogy is definitely one that's very highly lauded in general when people just talk about like any books at all. But I think that they have a bit of a merging of like, well, I've seen them in like the sci-fi and fantasy space talked about, but generally they're about like the end of the world. But it's sort of a scenario where the world seems to keep ending almost on like a regular basis because of catastrophic events that happen.
It's like it's like a 5th season. So there are 4 seasons, and then there's like the 5th season, which is what Rachel's talking about. And it's like when this happens, it's almost like in Game of Thrones when like winter is coming. Like you can't, it's unlivable basically.
Oh wait, this is the 5th season?
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, for the 5th season for the Broken Earth trilogy.
That's the first book. Oh, okay, then I know what it is. I just didn't know the series name.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure you've heard about it. You know what it is.
I know.
I've read the first one, and the first one is a 5 stars. Like it was really good. I really liked it. And I think it would be really good to discuss with everybody here because there's so much packed into that book. And it's so fun to guess. Like, I would love to see what y'all guess in the first one. Like, we have to do sprints for this one because if it ends up being Broken Earth, I'm like, we're going to have some stuff to talk about.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I hope Broken Earth wins. Obviously, I picked that one for whatever, but I'm also excited about it just because, like, I feel like that's a super intimidating series that a lot of people, like, everybody has it, but nobody reads it.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I've read the first one, but I haven't read the other 2, and I have them. Because I remember after I was done with it, I was like, all right, I need to, like, chill for a sec, because that was a lot.
Yeah, but I think because we read, like, typically fantaseries, we read one chonker every, well, not necessarily a chonker, but, like, one book in the series for every 2 months, and we have the time to, like, get through it, do some sprints, discuss in the Discord. So whatever does end up winning, we'll open up some channels for that. We discussed this last time when we first started with this year's series, I think, that we were going to kind of change up the way that things look in the Discord to not have like chapter channels, but instead we'll just have one for the whole book, and then you can drop your thoughts in there for whatever book series ends up winning for a different channel for every book.
Right. And I think the most important part with that is obviously if there are spoilers, you guys know how to put the spoiler bars up. But if you don't know, it's in the Discord on how to do it. And also when you do that, just make sure you put what chapter you're spoiling or like talking about right before the bars so that the person knows, okay, if I'm on chapter 3, but you're talking about chapter 6, I shouldn't click on this spoiler, which is one of the most important things. Because I'm going to tell y'all, if I get spoiled on something, I'll be mad and I'm gonna call you out. Okay, I'm not gonna be nice. So don't make me be that person.
Yeah,
but,
I just pinned it in the info channel. So if anybody hasn't seen it yet or wants to get a quick reminder about how to do spoiler bars, then just check that out.
Nice. And then I'm assuming we'll just have the poll up. Like what? Do we want to give it like 3 days or something? Like till Wednesday or something?
Yeah.
Or is that too long? Or we just want to be like, all right, y'all have 12 hours to vote. That would be so crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. No,
12 hours.
Even if we announce it next weekend or something.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's enough time because now that we're doing like the 2-month schedule, it's like we have plenty of time to like read the books and like get them and stuff. So yeah, that sounds good. That's all I got, y'all.
Thanks.
I'm glad that we read this and it's no longer on my TBR.
Yep. Glad it's over.
Yeah, glad it's over. I will be giving my book back to Stephanie Bookish because it's her book.
All right. Well, with that, I hope everyone watching has a good night. Thank you for joining us and for reading along. And we will see you maybe next month for some sprints, and if not, the month after for our discussion. All right. Bye, everybody.
Peace and blessings.
Bye.